What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I'm going to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening to the market this far and some very important levels to be watching for, and what's going on with the Fear and Greed Index as we have a new update that just came out. But before I break into all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 6 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks plus 6 months of level 2 data. If you deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 70 free stocks plus 12 months of level 2 data. Now, the offer ends in just about 12 hours from now, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market. So, looking at SPY, this thing got a nice push to the upside. We were talking about this breakout that was coming. I was expecting this thing to push upwards. This was no surprise to us since I mentioned this. But I told you we could see a pivot around this 472 area. If not, we could go a little higher. But if we did break higher, if you want me to turn really bullish, we need to break this high at 474, right? See this green trend line? We need to see this basically play out. A nice break of this red resistance. So far, we haven't done that. We haven't gone to that resistance. And if anything, it looks like SPY is trying to pivot around 473. So it's starting to show some weakness at this level. We're going to be watching to see if this thing starts turning going into the end of the day, especially into tomorrow, or if this thing could try to break out. Right now, it's looking like it might actually turn back down. So just be a little careful, guys. SPY is starting to become very choppy up here. When I go to the 5-minute time frame, you guys can see we got a big rejection, a sign of a pivot at 473. Let's wait and see how it closes. Let's wait for confirmation and see if this thing starts to turn a little bit more downwards, or if we manage to get back above 473 to retest 474. If we break 474, I'm going to turn bullish, guys. I think we can push all the way up to 476. If we fail to get up there and we just turn from where we currently are, because right now SPY is starting to show signs it's turning at 473. So far, it's starting to do that. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. If that's the case, then this thing could start to actually downtrend towards the very end of the day. So just be a little careful, and we'll see if we pivot from here. But SPY is starting to show some weakness at this resistance. Make sure you watch the resistance very carefully. That is going to be key. Now on the QQQ, I told you expect this thing to push up a little bit more. I told you we could actually push up towards this trend line, just like this at 407 to 408. And later on, we could actually get a break from here to the downside. Now, we haven't broken down yet on the QQQ because Nvidia is holding up nicely, but we're still approaching this 408 level. We're going to be watching to see if we get a confirmation break of this yellow trend line. Now, the QQQ is not looking extremely strong at this level. It's not super weak either. It got a nice push up, but it's kind of stuck near that 408 resistance as we're approaching, the all-time highs. We're getting very close to them. In my opinion, QQQ could continue to push a little bit higher. If we do break 408, it could get closer to 410 before it starts to pivot. But I still think there's going to be a pivot coming soon, looking at the current trend and looking at our different technical indicators. On the 4-hour time frame, you guys could see that the 4-hour is actually showing some weakness, as we're not only forming a divergence, but we're seeing momentum slowing down. We're actually losing some momentum. So it's not like exploding or breaking out extremely hard. If anything, I'm seeing some slowing momentum, and we're very overbought on the daily with an RSI at 80 almost. So just be a little careful at these levels, but we'll be watching to see how it continues. Now, something that's a little bit stronger than expected is Nvidia. I was saying that Nvidia should be, excuse me, Nvidia should be approaching 495 to 500. And then we're going to be looking for some kind of like pivot there. Instead, it actually did not pivot. It's just continuing to break out. And now it's trying to get back above 500, which is even stronger than expected. Watch 504 as resistance, 508, then 512. And then we're getting closer to all-time highs once again on Nvidia. So it's still holding up nicely. Nvidia is stronger than expected. There's no sign of it breaking down yet. So let's see if this thing can close above 500. If it does so, it could push even more. But I still expect some kind of pivot later on. Could this thing push higher and higher and squeeze shorts? Yes, it could. But wait and see if we get some kind of pivot as time goes on. Tesla was one of the stocks I predicted almost exactly what would happen. I told you we might see this thing push very close to this 260 area, close to this orange trend line, then a rejection should be coming. Tesla pushed, got to the orange trend line, and rejected very nicely, coming back down to our support at 252. Now, we do have this yellow trend line. This could be tested soon, so we'll look for a little bounce on Tesla before it comes back down here. But I think that We got this pop and drop on Tesla, and Tesla's trying to show some signs of weakness. Tesla's now back to red, so it got a very, very nice pump. Now it's starting to slow down a bit. So we're going to be watching support at 252. I think Tesla's going to be very flat from here and kind of close very close to where we are. We'll be watching it from here. But I'll talk more about that later on. As far as Aapl goes, I think Aapl is showing some life now because I was talking about this thing potentially coming down towards 195, then attempting to bounce. We actually went down to 194.4, and then we attempted to bounce. So very interesting right here. We're going to be watching this resistance now on Aapl. So if I were to redraw this, I would basically draw it like this. Let's see if Aapl does something like this. Do we come up here and reject one more time and then try to break out? If we break above this resistance up here, we could actually turn back bullish. Or do we just try to break it on our first attempt? We'll have to wait and see how Aapl reacts, but it's still within the channel, so we'll see if this channel holds for the time being. We'll see if it continues to do this as time goes on, or does Aapl end up essentially just breaking this resistance? If it does do so, we need to see it break 197 to turn bullish, and this could be making a nice recovery back up towards these wicks. So we're going to be watching to see if Aapl gets that break to the upside. I'll be watching this tomorrow, but don't forget that some tickers are showing some weakness. All right, so for SPY, excuse me, SPY is still trying to hold up, but just be very careful with it. We haven't broken 474 yet, so don't turn into a perma bull or a perma bear. Just wait and see and be very patient so far. It looks like it's starting to pivot right now. So with that being said, I will be watching that very carefully. I also wanted to add that if you look at the fear and greed index, this has officially hit extreme greed overall. And generally, when this happens, the market enters a topping process. Now, is it possible for SPY to pump more for the next few weeks? Yes, it still could. Okay, I still think SPY, it is possible for us to pump more ultimately to end the year. But if we do keep pumping for another 2 weeks, if we kind of like pump and then dump and then eventually pump back again for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to turn bearish for January. I'm going to be honest with you all. I don't think the market could sustain this much pumping without any sort of like decent sized pullback. And now our indicators are hitting these extremes with the fear and greed index finally hitting extreme greed. Most of the time, when this thing hits extreme greed, that's when the market tends to top. Most of the time, that's what tends to happen. So just be very careful. Not saying the market has to top yet. I'm just saying that you want to be very cautious when you see indicators like this. All right, guys, so that's it for this one. Thank you all so much for listening again. Please don't forget to remain calm, cool, and collected throughout the remainder of the day. And just as one more final reminder, the Webull link ends very, very soon, ends in just about 12 hours. If you want those free stocks and that free money, this is going to be your last chance. All right, so we'll see how things go going into tomorrow. Please be very cautious and watch that resistance at 473. We'll see if SPY pivots here, if it's going to turn or not. But I'm not going to be officially bullish until this thing finally breaks and holds above 474. So I'll be watching that. Make sure you guys watch it too. And with that being said, thank you all once again. Have a great day and peace out.